Hello, you're watching Sightline. Today in our studio we have Mr. Jørgen Ringgaard, the Creating Responsible and Sustainable Societies in Mongolia project consultant and the former project manager of the Free and Independent Press of Mongolia. So, Mr. Ringgaard, thank you very much for coming.
Pleasure.
So, the Creating Responsible and Sustainable Societies in Mongolia project that you're working as a project consultant is being implemented by a Social Partnership Network NGO through Danish International Development Agency, DANIDA.
Mm-hmm.
And the project is aimed at lifting low-income families from poverty through capacity building and contributing to rural development. So to our audience, can you please explain what this project is really about, and also how long are you going to implement the project?
Yes. As you said, the project is focused on poor families in rural areas.
Mm-hmm.
It has been running now for 3 years, and it will be running for the rest of this year.
Uh-huh.
And the project is based on two main components.
Mm-hmm.
One, it's working in 12 local areas in the country. And in these local areas, the project is supporting the establishment of saving and loan groups.
What groups?
Saving
Uh-huh.
and loan groups.
Uh-huh.
So you bring together around 10 to 14 families,
Mm-hmm.
which establish such a saving group, which then afterwards can give loans to the members. And in this way you establish a more stable financial basis for these families,
Mm-hmm.
because if they are getting into financial problems, they can have a loan from the group. So it's a way of stabilizing the life situation. And the second component is based on the International Labour Organization's training package called Start Your Business.
Mm-hmm.
And this is actually targeting people who would like to start their own business. And
Okay.
during the training they are prepared, you know, how to prepare for starting a business,
Mm-hmm.
how to draw up a basic business plan, and we also assist them in making applications for local loans, which there are local loans available for small enterprises starting up. So these are the two main components of the project: saving and loan groups and training in how to start your business.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to be working quite well, because what we see is that from the saving and loan groups, people who want to start their own business,
Mm-hmm.
they get a loan to help them.
Yeah.
So in this way you have created a kind of a dynamic interaction between these saving and loan groups and the training of entrepreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
which support each other. And what we can see now, after 3 years, we have now 2,100 involved in these saving and loan groups,
Mm-hmm.
and around 150 new companies have started up.
Mm-hmm.
So we think it's proven to be a good concept. It helps to create jobs in the local communities, and by creating jobs in new companies, you also make the local community more sustainable.
Yeah.
You have less social problems, people have a better living, people organize themselves, and in this way you also empower the local communities, you can say.
This project is being implemented in 12 local areas, including Bayinzur-Khangol district in Ulaanbaatar city, and also Bayinkhongor, Darkhangol, Dornogov, Dongov, Zahong, Orkhon, Setlink, Tuv, and Umngov provinces.
Mm-hmm.
So you said that 150 companies were born out of the second part of your project, the
training.
Yes, training and like how to start your business.
Yeah.
So could you also like tell us what kind of companies are there, and also like proportions of how many companies are making dairy products, or how many companies are making like handicrafts or something?
I cannot give you the exact numbers of how many companies are doing exactly this or that, but I can say you there are, as you say, companies in handicraft sector, in farming, different kinds, producing vegetables, honey. I think these are the main kinds of companies. Different kind of handicrafts. It can be many different things. And then different kind of production of food of different kinds. Or it can be cattle or whatever, you know. So these are the main. I think the farming sector is the dominant sector.
Yeah.
Farming sector in the widest sense.
Especially in the rural areas.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
Okay.
But also you have to have in mind that the IMAX are very different. I mean, in the South Gobi you have a different situation than in the north and so on.
Yeah.
So the profile of the companies which grow out of the project are also different. It depends on the local conditions.
Of course. And so last week, you and the other officials from your project met with the Minister of Labour and Social Protection, and you proposed cooperating with the relevant departments of the ministry and agreed to work together with the ministry. So could you give us details about how you expect to work with the ministries in Mongolia?
I don't know if I can give you details now because we're just in the beginning of starting the dialogue. But as I explained to you, we think we have a good concept which generates new companies and jobs. And we also know that it is a big challenge in Mongolia to have more people into employment.
Yeah.
And this is one of the main targets of the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection. But in generally, I think it's one of the priorities of the Mongolian government to move more people into employment or jobs.
Out of poverty.
Out of poverty, but also out of unemployment. And we think that our concept can contribute, and this is why we now feel we have a solid basis after these years of experience to suggest a dialogue to find out how can we combine our experiences and our expertise with the policies of the Mongolian government in this field.
So you said that the project will be implemented also throughout this year.
Yes.
And what are your plans for this year?
For this year? You can say...
Like the last phase.
Yeah, the last phase. Of course, there will still be trainings. New saving and loan groups will be established. But there will be one main event this year, and that will be a national conference in the autumn, where we will invite different stakeholders and, you know, actors in this sector to present the results of our project, but also to exchange experience, promote networking, to you know, to support awareness about this, the possibilities for SME development of SMEs in Mongolia, and hopefully to help to facilitate new developments, new contacts, new partnerships. So beside the ordinary activities of the project, this will be the main event in 2022.
So also apart from this project creating responsible and sustainable societies in Mongolia, you are also were the project manager of the free and independent press in Mongolia, and you're actually one of the few people that have contributed most to the free press sector of Mongolia, and you were awarded the Polar Star for your recognition of your hard work, and congratulations on that.
Thank you.
It was like last December on the occasion of the 25th anniversary of the
Press
Press
Institute.
Yeah. So, and this project was implemented on the basis of a bilateral agreement between Mongolia and Denmark, and funded by the Danish Agency for International Development, DANIDA. And it was actually one of the most successful projects in Mongolia in the press sector, and thanks to this project the Press Institute was established, and also the Free Press Foundation, one of the biggest printing house in Mongolia, was established. And so could you tell us how was it to implement this project like 26 years ago?
Mm-hmm. It was a very challenging project, because there were so many things that were new.
Mm-hmm.
For the printer house, we introduced new technology to Mongolia.
Mm-hmm.
I think we were the first printer house to offer 4-color printing at that time.
Yeah.
So there was a big challenge to train the staff for the new technology. And when it came to the Press Institute, Mongolia was in a transition period,
Mm-hmm.
and the media were also in a transition period. And it meant that the journalists needed new qualifications. So there was a huge need for training of the journalists.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the main activity of the Press Institute from the start.
Mm-hmm.
So there were many things that we had to introduce new things to the Mongolian community or
Mm-hmm.
society.
Mm-hmm.
We also tried to introduce new organizational structures, which also was a challenge.
Yeah.
But I think that, as you said, it was a successful project, and the main reason for that, in my opinion, is that we were lucky to have very talented Mongolian staff. Mm-hmm. And you can see that the two organizations are still running.
Yeah.
It's a proof.
Yeah, the
it's
printing
a proof
house
of,
and the Press
yes.
Institute, they're successful.
So that was maybe also not just, the project was not just challenging, it was also a very rewarding, a very pleasure to be part of it.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Yes. And you mentioned that I had the honor of receiving this Polar Star.
Yeah.
So of course I was very honored by that, but I also take it as all those who worked with us on the project, they have a big share in that. So I take it not just for me, for us, but also for the Mongolian staff who worked in the project.
Okay, thank you. When you were conducting the project in Mongolia, you said that everything was very new, and it was also rewarding and at the same time challenging. So what was the most memorable thing that happened to you during this project? What would you say?
I think the most memorable was the cooperation with the Mongolian staff, because it was also new for us to work with Mongolia and Mongolians, and it's not only for myself. I also know that for all my colleagues who were here as trainers or instructors, technicians, they came home with very nice memories, because the openness and the hospitality of the Mongolian people made a very strong impression on all of us, and that was new for us. So I think this is the most memorable. That was the human relations during the project.
So the hospitality of Mongolians, and that was in 1995. Was it the first time that you were visiting Mongolia?
Yes.
So, okay. Yeah. So, and okay, let me ask you that. What does the free and independent press actually mean? And also, what is vital to ensure the freedom of press? What would you say?
This is a very good question, and I think this question is more difficult to answer today than it was 25 years ago.
Why is that?
Because at that time it was, you could see, relatively simple. You need to have independent media organizations, you need to have qualified journalists and so on. the situation today is very different. You know, the social media has changed the whole media landscape.
Yes.
The way information flow to the public.
It's very different.
It's very different.
Yeah.
And it means also it's much more complicated to say what does a free media mean in this new context. Because on one side you can say we have a very free flow of information.
But on the other side,
but do we also have a freedom in the sense that the media, you know, are critical to all aspects of the society, all instances of power and so on. And then it becomes more complicated. And this is not only in Mongolia. I think it's a worldwide trend that, for example, the ownership of the media is concentrated. And it means also that media are more linked to economic interests or political interests. And this is the case in many, many countries. And it creates new challenges. And the new media where everybody can you know, put information on the social platforms. It's very difficult for the public to distinguish what is quality and what is just, you know, fake news and so on. So I think there is a big challenge to maintain journalism quality in this new situation, and it requires new ways of working for the journalist, but it also requires new qualifications. So I think the need for example, the Press Institute to provide this kind of training is just as big today as it was 25 years ago. It's just
maybe more.
Maybe more, yes. Yes.
So in last year, Mongolia was ranked 68 out of 180 countries in the World Press Freedom Index released by Reporters Without Borders, and Denmark ranked 4th. So what would you say Mongolia should do in order to improve its freedom press status?
Yeah, but that's the same difficult question as we talked before.
Yeah.
Of course, one issue is the relation between the state and the government, the political power, and the media sector. And there it is, of course, important that the state and the government and political power respect the independence of journalism. Also try to keep arm's distance to the media. This is one thing. And then first of all, it's important to secure the rights of the journalists, you know, to protect the journalists, and also to ensure the rights to, you know, not to disclose your sources. I don't remember exactly on which parameters Mongolia is ranked a bit low. But I think these issues are some of the core issues to ensure real independence and working conditions for independent media and journalists. And also for the media to act as the watchdog, you also need to have access to information. And it means how the media sector is working depends also on the conditions for access to information, to public, to all kinds of information in society. So I would point on these issues as essential for having what you could call press freedom.
Our time is actually coming to an end, and we've talked about like two different projects. So it's the end of our talk. What would you say to our audience?
Well, I would say to the Mongolian audience that it is a pleasure and an honor to work in Mongolia. And I would say to foreign audience, you should engage more in the development of Mongolia because it's Mongolia. Very rewarding.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming here and also like talking about this wonderful works that you've been doing.
Thank you.
You've watched Sightline. Today we talked to Mr. Jørgen Ringgaard, the Creating Responsible and Sustainable Societies in Mongolia project consultant and a former project manager of the Free and Independent Press in Mongolia project. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.